I gotta say though, that Winter Wyvern, always very scary to play into. Always surprises me that it's not banned out after the second ban phase, quite frankly. Just one of those heroes. It just doesn't make any sense right now how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, I gotta tell you, John, thank goodness Valve announced that they're releasing a new patch soon. I mean, my god, I'm so sick of this sustain meta. I've lost so much MMR because of these damn blue heroes that just keep healing over and over and over again. I hope they delete Aeon Disc, delete Holy Locket, delete Winter Wyvern. Just get rid of it. I'm tired.
How
I'm
about
sick
Phoenix,
of it.
Mike? How about your namesake? Your namesake, Phoenix.
Phoenix is fine.
It's a healing. It's
Come
in the
on.
healing meta.
Oh,
Sunray's
you're
a
pushing
great
it,
spell
JohnXfire.
right now.
Oh, shut
No,
up,
I'm
John.
not.
T1. They'll go for the Timbersaw. Great pickup, right? Against the TB, does pretty well. DK gets shredded by the Timber. Seems very nice. Fnatic, though, nice initiation now with that Dragon Knight. Another hero that seems to be very popular right now. Probably won't get a nerf because, you know, second season of anime soon to come out, I'm sure. Can't nerf the antagonist.
Who knows how soon? I think that's going to be a while. It's like a year off if production is on schedule. We'll see. But
thanks for ruining the hype, John.
I guess, I mean, you can't build up hype when it's not coming out yet. You don't want to get overhyped, you know? Have your expectations in check and enjoy it as it comes. That's my philosophy.
Stop being so pessimistic, Jonathan.
I can't help it, you know? It's just the way I am. Fnatic, one more thing with the Winter Wyvern before anything else. We have seen Winter Wyvern mids come out. I think it was SMG Moon playing it last time. I don't know if Fnatic want to do that. I just feel like I should point it out as a possibility so we can say we're smart later on if Fnatic does want to flex it. They've got the option to.
The other day,
yeah,
I played against that Wyvern mid. It really is just stupid how powerful it is, right? Because you get the Witch's Blade and that's it, you're done. You're ready.
Yep.
You can kill literally anyone. Just curse them and hit them, and they can't. It's literally impossible to survive. It's too much damage.
Yeah, it's a really great hero on mid. And I don't know, Fnatic could go for that route if they want to. It's still fairly open. Against Doom, it actually doesn't sound terrible. I mean, it's a melee matchup. You can just focus on last hitting and farming up instead. Very static lane in that sense. So it kind of works out. The off lane DK for Fnatic, you don't have that tie-in with Mirana unless, again, you flex the Winter Wyvern, go pause 5 Enchantress, pause 4 Mirana could be a possibility if they really want the combination on hand. The DK should hold steady against the Luna in the off lane. It's not too bad of a lane for DK. We have seen Luna struggle in that lane, especially if your lane partner isn't ready to kind of burst through a DK once the levels are up in Dragon's Blood. So it can be a lot slower there for the farm to come in for Savage. They're going to have to watch out. Det has been on a roll. I think he's probably one of the best performing players on Fnatic. All of them's been playing really well, but it feels like for me, Det is the standout. You know, since his journey in the Singapore Major, then going teamless for a while, then suddenly popping off with Fnatic. He is the one to watch out for in my eyes. So that lane is going to be really impactful for Fnatic.
I think it's one of the beauties right now of how Dota 2 is going, right? Like we're reaching this point where there's a new generation of players that are going to start coming in, and you can see a lot of them already that usually hang out in the tier 2, tier 3 scene, but sometimes we get the pleasure of casting them without really knowing who they are, and we're kind of amazed at how well they can do. And Death, you know, he comes out of nowhere, and he just looks incredible. Singapore Major, right? He just looked unbelievable. You know, it's a question of how did it take this long for someone to pick him up? At least Fnatic apparently had the brains to do it.
Yeah, like Det's always performed. He's been in the scene a long time as well, right? Like it's one of those kinds of cases where, because of how competitive Southeast Asia is, certain players just don't get a shot.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of teams, especially are Philippine centric. For example, they stay all Filipino. So players like that can't slide in. There's not as many international stacks. Fnatic is literally it, along with T1. Like these are literally the most multinational stacks with SMG. Fnatic do close out with Alina, so they are going for what looks to be our Lina mid. Yes, and it does go to T1. So nothing spicy like the Winter Wyvern mid. They will go along with very standard blades coming out. T1 closed out with the Mirana for Zephyr. So they've got some good chain stun action that can come true. Mirana, Timbersaw lane, however, doesn't sound the most amazing. I think that is the one shortcoming there. You can get EXP going, but you don't have that stun combo to really maximize that arrow.
No, absolutely not. Still, it should be a very interesting matchup. I think both drafts are similar enough in terms of how good they are. I am kind of personally leaning towards Fnatic though, and that's not just based off their results recently, but it's TB versus Luna. I say this every time, but Luna doesn't enjoy versing Terrorblade. I think Chuan's leaner as well, one of his specialties. He always performs in this hero, without a doubt. He just does a great job. And you're going to have the setup for that follow-up Light Strike Array. Death Blinks in, Dragon Tails, Light Strike Array after, and with the amount of damage you have, you're going to blow somebody up, guaranteed. T1, it's a strong draft. I just think it's going to be heavily reliant on how Cuckoo and Carl do in that mid and off lane. If you can't create the space for Savage, it's already a hard enough matchup, let alone losing your jungle early and then Savage having to find somewhere to farm. And we've seen Savage on this Luna before. In fact, we've seen many Lunas during this group stage and even the qualifiers of the Pro Series 7. And they do struggle once that mid tier 1 and bot tier 1 are gone. Or in this case for the Dire, the top and mid tier 1. So I think it's going to be quite important for them to have a good game, set some tempo, create some space, and give the man some time to be able to outscale Raven on that Terrorblade, which is not going to be an easy task.
Yeah, you definitely want to have an item advantage here in T1 as well on these heroes, on that Luna, on the Doom. We just saw it in the last series where if you even with just say a 1 to 2k lead on the side with the Doom plus 1 core, it doesn't feel great. You need so much more, you expect so much more because of the Doom with the Midas and the Devour, with the Luna flash farm, it needs to be up there. And that just means T1 has to be very disciplined in controlling the map, has to be ready to just buy that space out with the Timbersaw. Cuckoo has to be ready to kind of throw his body out there to buy that space. Fnatic, they've got so much rotation potential as well. Like with Enchantress, you can just scout out the jungle, block those stacks, prevent the economy from getting built up. With the leveled spikes on your mid, the Lina, Chuan, once he has the Laguna ready, you just blow people up. And of course, you have great push with Luna DK, which is something T1 doesn't quite have. So if they're not careful, their towers will really just melt the way you described it to.
Big smoke up though, John. T1, they might try to go for a very early first blood. We'll see the small side camp getting blocked there by Whitemon. And they are going to make it to the triangle without being spotted. Perhaps they did spot out Carl there on the backside as they had the Observer Ward. I think they may have just barely gotten some vision there on Carl. There was pings being made. T1, they're going to hang around and hope somebody comes back into this triangle to secure the bounty. But it seems obvious enough now that T1 are in that triangle, and Fnatic, they're already kind of avoiding them. They're going to the bot side of the map. They're going to secure the other 2 bounty runes. And T1, it seems as though they already understand they might have missed out. Though Jabs is going to come up now, but it's too late. It is just too late. The vision game from Fnatic has given all the information away. And they are still probably going to be able to get 2. Though Jabs, he actually backed off for a bit. Whitemon going to go for a stun, get some D-wards off, and he keeps the small camp blocked. And that's the game plan from Whitemon. He'll leave the... He left the bounty, but he goes back for that sentry ward to make sure the small camp is continuously blocked, to make sure Chuan can't go back for it.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt the scaling for Chuan. I mean, as long as Carl has his camp unblocked, which it isn't, it is blocked as well. So you're not going to get that farm advantage on either side, and that hurts the Doom a little bit more, because you do want the camp to maybe take a nice creep. The small camp doesn't have the best creeps. There are a couple that can make a difference, and in this matchup, Luna versus Doom, Chuan has a much better time. Sure, Doom is tanky, he can get regen up, but Lina has the damage with range. Once she gets level 3 going 1-1-1, there's some good right-click damage that can come through as well. And Carl's going to have to watch himself. He wants to build up, but, you know, missing out in even just one camp, it's kind of painful for the Doom.
Yeah, absolutely. I can still feel that lag, by the way. I did try to fix the connection issues, but I do believe you might be correct in saying that the typhoons occurring right now across the Philippines might be causing some instability on my side of things, unfortunately. Hopefully it improves itself, but I've already tried everything to try and reset. It just seems like it's gonna this slight lag issue might just continue on my end.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's almost typhoon season, remember? Burr months. We're in August. It's gonna be hitting up soon. How did Cuckoo not see the Lina?
Yeah,
in the draft possibility.
I think I have. I think I figured it out. Yeah, we are sitting at about 230 ping on my end, so it does look like there is an issue going on, unfortunately. Usually I sit at 90 if it's the SEA, which is pretty good.
Yeah, very playable. Still, you know, we'll see how Carl handles the Lina, as apparently, again, Cuckoo didn't see it for some reason in the draft, so I guess Carl's going to have to deal with that one way or another. It does give us time to look at the side lanes up top. You've got Jabs on the pause for Winter Wyvern, along with Det on that DK. They're laning up against 23 Savage and Whitemon on the Luna line. And this one should be fairly passive. You just build up farm on the Luna. You can try to bully out in Det's end. Maybe get the value points and breed fire instead of the stun. Slow down the right-click damage of Savage to kind of slow down the farming pace. But the Luna still has a good time here, and you do have to watch for the chain stuns that can come out from T1. A Lucent Beam and Earth Spike can kind of set up for some kill opportunities here.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of damage, and I think that's one thing people kind of underestimate is how powerful of a laner Luna can be. Just with the bonus attack damage that it does have, plus the Lucent Beam magic damage. You can certainly abuse that quite a bit there with Whitemon on that lane, or rather on the line. Bottom lane, you've got Cuckoo there on his Timber. Of course, he'll have the support of Zephyr on the Mirana. DJ's going to be against him on the Enchantress, and you do also have Raven on his signature Terrorblade. I'd say this should be an annoying enough lane for Raven, but Raven, he's played this hero so much. I mean, he knows these matchups like the back of his hand. I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Yep, he's managing quite nicely. Last hits are all the way up there for Raven. The dual lane for T1, Mirana Timbersaw, it's not particularly scary. Like, maybe if you get caught by a random arrow, but that shouldn't happen for Raven. But the only thing Zephyr can really do reliably every time is just arrow to range creep, arrow to large cap. He did block it off, so he doesn't have that source of EXP. They are giving enough space for Cuckoo to get his solo EXP going, though. So he's going to hit those level 4, level 5 spikes, and then the lane just... It's not a lane you really want to stick to as the Terrorblade. At the same time, Cuckoo without any backup, it's still not the scariest. Timbersaw at its best has a stun setup to land his spells, and Zephyr's got his work cut out for him. He could maybe go for side lane rotations. He is allowed to stack up the Ancients. They are getting at least a solid source of farm down the line here.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a matter of just kind of scouting that out later and trying to catch 23 Savage while he does take those Ancients. Can be one way of kind of dealing with those Ancient stacks. It's like 23 Savage is actually in trouble right now as we speak, as Jabs going for some nice body blocks and death. He does go for the level 1 Breathe Fire. He may have just skilled that out to be able to secure the first blood, and of course it will be well worth his time. They did get the biggest target on the map.
Yeah, you're slowing down Luna. Savage's farm is just not really measuring up, especially compared to Raven. Despite Raven having that one-on-one lane, it's just not enough pressure coming out in Fnatic, and well, that is going to slow down the pace for Savage. It looks like he is going to go for the Mask of Madness down the line to accelerate farm. Very important if he wants to clear out the Ancients. And I think as long as Fnatic keep this control up, like they've got this early forward ward on the cliff, and they can tell when stacks are being built on the top jungle. They've got a good start for death. They keep this pace up, they should hit all the times they want and just slow down T1's power spike.
Yeah, certainly so. Raven gonna get chained on there by Cuckoo, but he's gonna be just fine. He's got the Metamorphosis up, so he can farm very safely. Meanwhile, top lane, 23 Savage again is in trouble. Zephyr, he's rotated over. They will save the day as the arrow does come in. They might be able to turn now into Jabs, and they do. They do get a nice return kill. Boy, it looked very close there for Savage. Had Zephyr not come in, I believe he would have just been dead.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, bottom lane,
playing on the edge.
Raven, he's being chased down. Cuckoo knows he's alone. Chains forward, and that'll be your kill. Cuckoo does secure a nice kill for himself, and that's going to be a very important kill to get for the side of T1.
Yeah, they needed to put a lid on that TV, and when it comes down to it, that's the one strength of the Timbersaw. You can leave him solo in lane. Right? You hit level 5, you have level 3 chains, level 2 reactive, you're very hard to zone out, you've got good damage. Now the Chakram's up as well. So Raven, he might have to dip into the jungle earlier on, and he does just TP to the tier 2, head into those camps. No forward vision here from T1, so no one's going to be able to snipe out the Terrorblade while he farms up. Fairly safe time for him to get that done. The rest of Fnatic just kind of grouping up mid. They've got level 6 on Chuan. They could try to burst down Carl here.
Well, they could, and they might just try as DJ. He does get the enchant off. Carl, he's still walking at a decent enough speed. Light Strike Array, though, is going to land. Chuan doesn't have enough mana, I don't believe, for the Laguna. And he doesn't. He has no regen either. He just gets it up. He was a couple mana short, but it's too late now. Whitemon's going to move in. DJ will probably get punished for this. Will eventually go down, it looks like, as the arrow does fly in from Zephyr. Zephyr does take the kill for himself in the Mirana, and Chuan, I think it was about 5 mana he was short for that Laguna Blade.
Yeah, just not quite lining up there for Fnatic. They invest a lot of time on their supports as well to hang around mid to get that done, and they don't find a kill. They don't really get much off the map. Like, they do have this ward now on the cliff side to watch the jungle camps in the triangle, which is helpful. But they still haven't done anything to stop the ancient stacks, and that's the big worry. And down the line, Fnatic is going to have to try to jump in there. They could still pressure the tier 1 mid. Double damage, and Chuan does allow him to do that. And with his range, not much Carl can really do to stop the slow chip away. So less than half HP left. Maybe a little bit more commitment from Fnatic should find that objective. And DJ does manage to finally scout out the stacks. They are aware, and they drag Raven down mid as well.
That they do, Raven. Well, he has the meta up, and they understand how important this mid-tier 1 is, John. We talked about this during the drafting stage. But Luna needs the jungle, and now he's probably going to start losing it. As Raven immediately starts going into that triangle, moving in through the small cap. He probably won't go too deep. But no, they are. They have DJ around. They're going to scout out the ancient stack. And Fnatic, I mean, this is the way to play it. Just start stealing farm away if you can. Looks like Raven, though, he's going to have no way to steal the stacks away. They scout it out, but that's about all they can do. But that mid-tier 1 tower, it's so important for tier 1, and unfortunately, it is already gone.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really mount a big defense as well. They just keep Cuckoo bot. He is trying to rip through jabs. Damage isn't enough, but he should be able to eventually find us bot tier 1. No top trade coming out from Fnatic just yet. Death still inching towards this level 6. You don't have the Dragon form to really base your push around. And with that tier 1 bot gone, Cuckoo has a lot of space to just be a nuisance here.
DJ gonna be chased down now, but he avoids the Chakram. Still Cuckoo wants to try and get this kill. Zephyr, he had an arrow, but he's not gonna bother trying to throw it out. Probably would have been a bit too hard to land there, and we'll just use it on a neutral camp instead. And he's gonna remain at 1-3 now. 1k net worth lead the way of tier 1, so they do have that slight advantage in 23 Savage. He's doing Luna things, he's farming very well. But if you're Fnatic right now, you're going to start focusing on that top tier 1 tower. Once you get that down, you can really invade that jungle. It's going to be quite a bit more of a challenge for Savage to be able to remain in his own jungle and keep up the farm. Though I must admit, John, he does get very lucky. Zephyr just found a possessed mask. And 23 Savage, he's going to be very happy with that.
Yeah, he already kind of skipped out in the Mask of Madness, DQ'd it, so having a source of lifesteal does simplify the process into the jungle, and you can see they're still building up there. They are starting to commit up top here from Fnatic, though. Savage still hanging around the area could be a bit of a risk. Doesn't have the value point in the clips to really have some presence here as well.
Snare. They do get Whitemon, but the turnaround is now here. Cuckoo going to change forward, and the Chakram is out. Doom has been committed as well. Carl, even the Eclipse being thrown out, they will go with the Doom onto Death. They want to try and get this DK, and they will probably be able to just dive all the way with Cuckoo's Timber, but Death, he's going to run the other way now, as you do have a TP in from Jabs, but he is level 5. He has no curse up yet, and that means he is going to fall as well. T1 getting very aggressive with their draft. It is panning out quite successfully for them. And John, I might need to try a quick reconnection here, I think. The lag is getting worse and worse. But we will wait and see when there's some inaction. Carl, he almost goes down a Raven. Raven, he is trying to steal the ancient stacks away. And I suppose this is one thing Raven can do right now, is take some time, take the ancient stacks away from 23 Savage. He seems to assume there is no TP for Savage, but there is. I suppose Raven could still try to fight this one out, but he won't feel safe by himself. He'll eventually start backing up.
Yeah, he did manage to take the big creeps, most of them, so the ones left aren't as valuable for Savage, and he still needs to play around here, as Chuan's around now to protect this push in as well, and they need to stop these camps from being stolen, but T1's not quite in possession, not quite in position So Raven backs off, but they've done enough damage. They've at least
Whitemon?
cleared out one stack worth. Oh.
Yeah, Whitemon's been enchanted up, but looks like Death isn't going to try and make the jump in on the DK. Just let him go. In all fairness, you don't have anything like the Blink Dagger up yet on Death, so it looks like he just wants to ensure that he secures that top tier 1. Stick to the game plan if you're Fnatic. No need to go down the unknown kind of road. And I'm going to take this as a quiet period now. Savage is taking the Ancient, so we're going to quickly switch screens. And I'll try to go for a quick reconnection and see if that fixes up the lag issues. John, you can do a bit of radio commentary while we're doing this.
Sure. Sounds lovely. Just 11.5 minutes in, 1-5 in favor of T1 on the Dire side. 1k lead up for T1. A lot of that is riding on Savage. They are still trying to build up on their Doom. This is the one hurting point for T1. Karl's farm has sort of slowed down. He's not too far behind. The difference between him and, I guess, the next top core, Cuckoo, is just about 200 gold. So the farm distribution is fairly even on both sides. Savage is just pulling ahead as you'd want on the Luna. You do want a little bit more on the Luna, though. It's like not big enough to have a full item lead. And the side of Fnatic, I think they're more than happy to play around with that. There's a bit of a smoke play coming out from Fnatic on the river. Walking through, they're going to catch out maybe Whitemon, but that's not the target they'd want. Walking through the ramp, to the lower ramp. And
I'm back, by the way, John. Thank you for that. Yeah, Zephyr, he's going to be in trouble. Death's going to start moving in. Blink's already committed, but they will commit the curse as well, just to try and lock him down, but it's not long enough, so they don't get the Light Strike array, and Zephyr is going to run. And if you're T1 now, you definitely want to try and turn. Knowing that curse is down, want to try and make something happen. In case you were wondering, by the way, John, it didn't fix the lag issues. Just thought I'd let you know. Death's naked right now in the DK as well, by the way. He's just completely lost everything.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful... That bug never goes away, no matter what version of Dota it is. You get the naked DK and the bald CF. It just never goes. The classic bugs.
Oh, there's Davion. Older Davion, I like to call him. Old man Davion.
I wonder if the Arcana or whatever, the younger Davion has that same bug. Yeah, the Persona. I wonder if it has the same bug. Like, does he go naked as well? Does he?
Would you like that, John?
It's an academic question. It's not a matter of my preference. It's a matter of, is it a bug as well? You know?
I get you.
Keep it academic.
Isn't there like a, what is it called? The little emote where his butt or something? Yeah.
T1?
Yeah.
Bit of a wrap here from T1.
Absolutely. They'd love the Lina right now. Do they have the initiation? Yeah, it looks like they just may, but a nice Fuel Scepter up from Twan. But Zephyr is there with the arrow and the fingers there from Whitemon. Uh-oh. Bit of a running man moment now for T1, John. So, the lag keeps getting worse.
Yeah, it's one of those days. 4 Typhoons does that to an undersea cable. They catch out Savage, DJ.
Yeah, I'm going to move in. DJ looks to be shredded here by Cuckoo. He's going to have the heal out, though, and, Enchantress, it's one of those heroes, John, a very balanced hero. Can just kind of walk away from those scenarios, as now Cuckoo going to be in a bit of danger. He should just be able to chain out, though. I don't see them having enough damage quite yet for this Timber, and that is indeed going to be the case.
Yeah, it's one of those things with the Turbossaw. When you have an Enchantress and Winter Wyvern for most of your control in the supports, the pressure is there really on Death and on Chuan on the Lina DK to stun him up, and if they're not there to stun, then you don't have to hold. They do smoke up on Fnatic's end, though. They are holding on to the curse. They've got Laguna ready. They could go for a big target here.
Well, they could certainly try. Where are they going, though? Raven, he's going to be spotted by the Obs, and just running into the Dire jungle like this is going to make it very obvious that they are smoked around him. And T1, not the kind of team to take such an obvious bait, are going to just stick around on the right side of the map. Now Zephyr even just going to TP back to his team, and they might just counter smoke. Because you know exactly where Fnatic are right now. And they will go for a smoke. This could be quite detrimental for Fnatic if they're not too careful here. Savage, he's trying to bait by farming that mid lane. Fnatic, though, they're also the kind of team that's not going to fall for an obvious bait. So they're going to back off. it appears they are also going to be able to avoid T1.
T1 can line up for that mid-tier 1 push. Start to take a big objective. The ward does spot the high ground here, though.
Uh-oh, in we go, DJ. Well, we've seen this story before. Raven, however, he's a much better target. A much more killable target, in fact. They aren't going to be able to catch him with Whitemon, so they'll have to let him go.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Death.
Is under attack.
Yeah, Death. Stun gets out. He'll start running. Carl, not going to even bother popping the Doom. He had no teammates around him. Maybe if he landed the stun, he could kind of call for a rotation, but that's not going to be the case. Fnatic now, they might try to make a play onto that top Doom. Carl has stuck around, but well, you've got to get Chuan in range to get the Yule Scepter off, and it looks like he's just not going to be able to make it in time.
No, and it's a lot of movement as a team from both sides. I think T1's being a bit more efficient on the map, though. They managed to break off, get Savage back to farming. He's building up. Our Luna still has a 1.3k lead over Raven. Not massive enough to feel out of it here for Fnatic's end, but it's the other heroes of Fnatic that I worry about. Det has been taking the backseat on his DK. Chuan has been sort of lagging behind as well on Lina. You do want some farm to start streaming through on those two heroes, and you kind of want to play active. Like we talked about this with the draft, but the activity is supposed to be coming out from Fnatic. They've got the push with the DK, with Lina. They've got the control. They've got the team fight on hand early on, and they're not able to line up their shots. So I think T1 just kind of doesn't mind. If there's no fight that breaks out, you've got a Doom, you've got a Luna. They farm really quick, and once you hit certain item spikes here, you start to feel really nice. Savage inching closer towards that BKB, still a ways off. Same thing for Carl. Once you've got that spell immunity up, you suddenly lose a big chunk of your DPS from your Lina. You know, she's not going to be able to burst heroes down with the Laguna, get the hold off with the LSA. Even the DK won't get his hold off, and that lack of control is going to bite them. They're going to be relying mainly on just the curse to hold true to BKBs.
I'll tell you what, a very slow game thus far as well, John. 1-6 at 18 minutes. I only just realized that it's only been 7 kills thus far in this game, but I suppose it is suiting T1. They're just farming very nicely. There's no pressure. I thought those early T1 towers would do a lot more here for Fnatic, but they are still sitting back on their side of the map. And you've got to give props to T1 though. They have been very careful with their positioning here. Just making sure they never get caught by a smoke rotation from Fnatic, and now they're going to go for a Moonlight Shadow attempt. Chuan, he's kind of read that something's wrong, and Carl is going to reveal that now. He's going to back off as well. So just everybody on the map refusing to get caught.
Yeah. It's just time. You know, you're stalling out. The Luna is still building up. You've got the 6k lead T1. There might be an engagement by that top tier 1 though. Yeah,
Zephyr looks like he might be targeted. Line Strike Array it did land. It was a bit slow though, but it won't matter. Leap was there from Zephyr, but in the end, stun was still committed, so they get the kill. Just a possible Mirana kill, not too big of a deal. It's just something for Fnatic. I mean, that was their second kill of the game, so I guess they've doubled their kills now.
Yeah, it's they didn't need to blow too many big spells as well. They can't transition to an objective though. And the side of T1, knowing that the heroes are up there, looks like they kind of want to get in on the action as well. We'll see if they can catch someone out.
Jabs. Oh, he's going to reveal himself now on that tree line. Again, not the biggest kill in the world. It is just going to be a pos 5. Or rather, pos 4, excuse me, Winter Wyvern. But it's still something. In a slow matchup like this, you just take what you can get. Still, as time goes on, Raven, he's starting to catch up to 23 Savage. And they do go front of the smoke up. They'll spot out Cuckoo. Smoke breaking on Raven. Whitemon's going to be around just in case. Savage, he'll move in as well. Dragon form. It's going to be popped. The blink was cancelled. Whitemon. No, what a quick hex up from Whitemon. On the blink on death, and now the Earth Spike is there. Is it going to matter though? They've already lost their Lion Cuckoo. He went in, but the rest of T1 went out. Savage, he did not want to commit. They didn't have Carl around, nor did they have Zephyr. So it ends up still being just a one-kill kind of team fight. And both teams dissipate.
Yeah, they're really kind of building up the tension, right? Building up the farm, building up the tools they need to feel confident in these fights. They're not willing to take risks. And when you're T1 up against Fnatic, or when you're Fnatic against T1, you know the tier that these teams stand on. Both teams going to TI, you don't want to risk taking these smaller engagements with your big cores without their farm. So you play it safe. You just play it slow, have confidence in your farming rotations. They might catch DJ though.
They may. DJ, he's still got the... No, he actually doesn't have the heal. Does have the Holy Locket, and Cuckoo, he doesn't even want to deal with him. He'd rather go for Jabs, who is definitely going to be the easier target. There is Curse up. In fact, never mind Death. He's going to jump in with the stun. There's your Curse. And he's just going to walk away, but Cuckoo's not done. He'll keep the pressure up. Jabs really doesn't want to die like this. Cuckoo, though, he's just so tanky. It may not matter, or maybe it will. They rotate a lot of heroes over. Wymon, he's going to be there with a massive stun, a 3-man Earth Spike, and now they jump in. Carl's there with the double stun as well. They got the Doom off Twan. Is going to die, and now DJ. He's going to try and back. Death will TP out, but they are going to get... In fact, they get 3. 23 Savage. He came in from the backside. He does end up getting Jabs on the Wyvern to boot.
Under attack.
So a very aggressive dive there from Cuckoo, but it certainly pays off.
Yep, they managed to find that big fight at last in T1 send. Early committal on the Winter's Curse to run. Then the decision to try to turn on a Timbersaw with a Hood of Defiance and Kaya Sanj. He's super tanky. He's not a hero that you can burst down without your Terrorblade committing, just to have that additional damage. And that just leads to a free Roshan here for T1. They just jump into that pit. There is no response from Fnatic, and Winter's Curse still on cooldown for half a minute. They can't get there in time, and T1 just finds that big opening they need. They're going to have that safety net now on Savage for the second life. He can choose to join these fights if he wants to. Does not have the Eclipse, so probably going to have to wait for that spell to go off cooldown first, but he will have his Crystallis up by the time it's up and running, though. So he's going to have a lot of damage to contribute in these fights with the Crystallis up, with the Eclipse up and running. On the side of Fnatic, you mentioned the Raven catching up. He still is within about 1.3k gold, so it's not a huge deficit. You're within the item range of the Luna. The Luna doesn't have anything above the Terrorblade just yet. And when it comes to that matchup, we've talked about it with Luna versus Terrorblade. Terrorblade feels good in item parity, because he has Metamorphosis. He hits so much harder than the Luna can. He's got Reflection Illusions that fly out as well. So even with this 9k overall lead, T1 still has to respect Raven. If they don't lock him in with the Doom and chain stuns, Raven's still going to do a lot of work in the engagement.
I mean, certainly so.
Radiant are scanning.
Bill Savage is having a great old time. And once that Daedalus is up, he's going to be having an even better time. And of course, after the Daedalus, you get the shards up, and then you just start being silly with this Lucent Beam with the glaive bounces and things like that. Not for long, though. The patch will be in 11 days, so hopefully that's completely nerfed off. Cuckoo. I'm just trying to get as many kind of nerf messages to Ice Frog as I can, John. You never know. He might be watching right now.
Tower is under attack.
We got to kind of give him that information. He needs some help here, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh?
DJ is trying to move forward, but they're going to let them go. 23 Savage. He's spotted out a DD rune for himself. Has a nice little bottle there from his teammates. And, well, there you go. That next team fight going to be feeling very nice for Savage. He doesn't have enough gold to finish off the complete Daedalus right now, and he's going to be quite a bit off. But you should still be able to force a team fight, and with the DD, you're kind of better off anyway than with the Daedalus.
Yeah, you still have a lot of damage pumping through. They're going to invade that triangle now, Carl.
He wants a big target, though. Like, you're looking at Raven. It's probably the biggest target. Other than that, obviously, Chuan on the Lina. Maybe you could even look at Death on the DK. Just kind of lock down that big tanky frontliner of Fnatic. But I think Raven or Chuan being caught out by that Doom is going to be priority here for T1.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
T1, they're not going to find the fight. They say no problem. We'll go after the Tier 2 bottom tower. And with their lead, they can just keep pushing these objectives. And it's going to increase to about a 10k net worth lead now. Fnatic, they just...
Radiant's
the
bottom
game
tower
plan,
is
it's
falling.
not coming together yet.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
No. And the big issue for Fnatic is that while Raven is farming up, again, Chuan and Det have really taken a step back. There's just no progression on our Lina, on our DK. And the high ground with Luna double damage, you can't allow them to take this for free. Once that tower's gone, they can rip into the racks just fine.
Savage!
Oh.
He's been stunned up. Reflections there as well. But they don't commit all the way. I mean, he had the
I'm-
BKB anyway, so I guess they just didn't feel like they could really just burst him down.
I'm loving the build on jabs. He has the Ags up on his Winter Wyvern. Pause for Winter Wyvern Ags. Who needs the Holy Locket? Who needs heals?
Yeah.
Go for the toggle. Go for the damage. There you go.
Is that gonna be... I know it's strong, right? But you need, like, some core items to make it feel broken. Right? Like, I know that, like, maybe the idea for him is... He's against Cuckoo, the percentage damage is gonna be quite nice. Even against the Doom, it's gonna be quite effective. But you need something else. Like, you need some form of damage here on jabs. Like, I don't think the Ags is enough, surely.
I think the value in the percent damage is probably enough to justify it. And the free patting as well. So jabs can
Right.
kind of reposition himself to get those good curses off, which is just key for Fnatic's team fights. Like, it all hangs on the Winter's Curse. If they don't land any of their other stuns, that's their one stable control.
Alright, that's actually a lot of damage. Now they jump in, Death, they have found a big target. Carl in trouble, but the Eclipse is there, and now the Curse. Carl is still gonna die, and there goes Jabs as well, and the Wyvern. Chuan's in trouble, he's gonna drop as well. They would love to go after Raven, but they aren't gonna dive too far. Instead, they'll go back in onto the Enchantress. They did end up losing their Aegis on 23 Savage thanks to the Curse of Jabs. But 23 Savage on an ultra kill on this Luna.
Has fallen.
Gets the Daedalus up, and they're onto the high ground now.
Radiant's middle
And Fnatic, quite frankly, John, this isn't working out for them. In fact, Whitemon, he jumps in. Savage is right in onto Raven. Look at the damage. He's a few seconds left, a few seconds late for the Rampage. But it won't matter, because now they have the game in their hands. T1,
Radiant's bottom
I think you could call it there, quite frankly. Like, they can't get Megas, but
Radiant's middle tower.
they are well and truly just way too far ahead.
Radiant's middle
Yeah.
barracks are
T1's just managed to pull ahead. The target they jumped, and jumping the Doom, he's just so tanky up front. They couldn't burst him down. And now they're just going to have to watch these racks fall. The top will hold, but if T1 are smart, they just go for the endgame here. There's not much to stop them. With that Daedalus on Savage, he has a massive damage advantage over Raven. The gap is wide enough that the Luna does feel stronger now.
Yeah, it seems like they are going to play it safe, though. They're not going to try and rush for it. They do want to go for the Megas instead, which, you know, you appreciate when you've got that much of a net worth lead. You don't want to throw it back the other way, and it is still very scary into that Terrorblade.
blessings upon
But with the way T1's going, you just play it slow. There's no rush for them. No need to try and rush high ground again. Could wait for the next Roshan. Could just take this tier 2 top tower and back off for the Roshan. There's plenty of opportunities here.
Yeah, and for Fnatic, their defense now really lies on Death getting a good jump in and Jabs getting a good curse.
Radiant's top
He needs to
tower is
hammer
under
in that
attack.
curse. The last one, pretty much just for control, didn't really catch anyone out. T1 has done a great job of just staying so split up. Like, even now in this clump up for the tier 2, they're very far apart. They're just not giving any openings towards Jabs. They know that's the only comeback play for Fnatic, and they just take it for free. Into the high ground, T1, they need to come in for the defense.
Certainly. And I've got to appreciate how much damage that Aghanim Scepter did with Jabs on the Wyvern. It was a lot onto Cuckoo. I believe it was like 200 plus per second. But it's just not enough. Like, I guess the repositioning is quite nice.
Top tower is under attack.
The T1 just a step ahead this game. And I don't think it's just based off draft either. Like, T1, we talked about the draft, and I felt like they had the weaker one, quite frankly. But the way they're playing,
Dire's
even
bottom
after
tower
losing
is
those
under
initial
attack.
objectives, it's just been fantastic. Like, they just keep winning every kind of trade. The game sense have been there. They've only given 4 deaths away this whole game. It's quite incredible.
Yeah. I think the big issue was Fnatic couldn't play the game they wanted to. They couldn't really follow up onto tier 2s. They didn't invade the triangle as much. We saw Raven clearing out a couple of creeps. They didn't get the control they needed in the jungle to stop that Luna flash farm. So there was enough space for a Luna and a Doom to get built up. Once you're there, the farm advantage just keeps building in. You can't expect them to farm slower when map control stays equal. And Fnatic just never really wrestled the map control away after finding those early towers. So they just played a bit too slow on Fnatic's end. They are still holding on, but the 25k deficit's just very hard to close out. We do have 2 minutes, 20 seconds until the next Roshan roundabout. So it's a bit longer for T1 if they want to wait for it. I still can't fault them for going for that safer play. They do have the Scotty up in Savage, though, so a lot of the heals coming out on their Enchantress and on the Winter Wyvern's not going to feel as effective. Even with a Holy Locket up and running on DJ, it's just not going to do as much once the Scotty active or the passive starts spreading around with a hit. So the sustain's not going to be there for Fnatic. They are, again, relying heavily on a curse from Jabs. And going back to the Ags, like the repositioning's great, but one has to wonder now, would a Blink have served Fnatic better on Jabs? Like, it just feels like it would have been better for him to hang way far back, blink in, get the big curse, and just go from there instead of just trying to fly around the map looking for these juke spots instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid point, John. I was kind of thinking the same thing, but I guess with the added value that you have with the Ags, it's probably where Jabs was going. He was probably like, well, I've got a bit more value with the Aghanim Scepter. It tanks me up as well. The stats are nice. Regardless of that, Death, he tried to jump in. Look at the damage output. He just gets crit for 700 with one of those Lucent Beam Glaives. It's very annoying for him. T1, they're still waiting for the Roshan. DJ gonna try and get some wards out of the triangle, but Cuckoo's gonna bully him out. They definitely can't really think about killing Cuckoo right now. He's just gonna be fine to chain away every time. T1, they've got about 35 seconds for that Roche to be up. DJ moving back in. They're gonna try and fight, but there's the Earthspike Finger. DJ's gone. Death, he'll keep trying to go. They're onto Cuckoo. They're dealing the damage now. Chains away. Bloodstone active is there. Cuckoo, he's still alive. Light Strike Array up. Maybe they do have enough and they barely get it, but now Jabs is going to drop on Carl. He's in with the Doom out. He's got the Lina. He's even got the Terror Blade. He double dooms them. Raven, Chuan, they're trying to rum our Savage. He's just killing everyone else. Carl, he might die for this. In fact, he does. And a nice curse Jabs. He holds back 23 Savage. So maybe, just maybe, Fnatic, they've got a good team fight on their hands now. The Savage is going to try and run, but the Dooms have worn off. Can they catch up to the big one? Whitemon, he's going to try and fight. This could be a mistake, though. Raven, he's in. Eclipse is there, though. Savage with the BKB TP. He might just make it, and he does. They'll get Whitemon. And in fact, John, they got a lot of golden XP out of that, I'm pretty sure. So in the end, while it wasn't a perfect team fight, they get 10k XP, they get 4k worth of gold. They do commit a Jabs buyback and a dieback, but now Roshan's open for them. They may be able to sneak it.
Issue here is that you don't have Metamorphosis on Raven, so he's just going to have to stay in melee form, get the job done himself. He is doing good damage, though. And that might be enough. T1, respawns aren't too long now. They might still be able to make it in time. They do get the scan. I don't know if Savage wants to just march up, but it is just 2 heroes. His BKB's on cooldown, though.
He can delay things with the glaives, with the Lucent Beam, right? Like, he can slow things down a little bit. Cuckoo's up now. TP's coming in. Roshan is so low. They really want this Aegis down. Cuckoo, he's going to rush in. Raven, he's going to keep going after Roche. He'll gamble for it. They forced off Cuckoo out of there. Oh, somebody forced him out of the Roshan pit. Now the Sunder comes in. Raven, he gets 23 Savage. He got the Godlike spree off Savage. Carl, he's going to jump in. A double stun there. Can they burst anyone down? Fingers out. They've got Chuan on the leader. Raven is going to try and make his way out with this Aegis, but it looks like he's going to have to give up 1 life. T1, they might be able to get the second. 23 Savage. He bought back. Raven, 4-staff away. That's DJ helping him out. Whitemon, though, going to suck the mana out of him. He's got no Sunder. He does have the cheese, but he won't get it. He got it off in time. It just didn't matter.
Ooh. Yeah, that's back and forth. They forced this value back in Savage. Hold on. Death?
Oh, Death? Alright, that's not good news. Death goes down. Raven, he's going to keep the buyback immediately.
Cuckoo.
Meanwhile, Cuckoo, a bit deep. Jab still chasing him down. Savage, he'll come in. That was a really, really smart play there. DJ, he forced out Cuckoo in the Roshan pit so they could secure the Aegis. And I suppose that is at least going to buy them more time. Because T1 now, they might second guess going high ground. We'll have to see.
If they catch out Raven, that could be the end game, though. Same thing goes for T1. If T1 loses Savage, it's not quite over because they have tier 2s. So it's much safer for T1 to actually take this aggressive play now, take the aggressive stance if they want to. They still have to, well, no, actually, they have double Doom ready on Carl when they do want to come in. So I think they've got the option to actually just play aggressive. It looks like T1 decides to play it safe, just clear out the camps, shove out the waves, keep the control up, and just maybe sit out and wait for buyback. And if you wait for Savage's buyback, you'll also give enough time for Raven to get his buyback back, and you lose the advantage. So it's a bit of a risky take installing out like this. The Satanic is almost done on Savage. That could be the item spike that they wait for instead. Just have that self-dispel, have all the heals in the world, to not really care for the Arctic Burn in particular coming through from jabs. It has been stalling out T1 in these engagements, and having that on hand, a way of fighting that off with the Satanic could help Savage out. They still hold the lead though. Like, even Widow's bad fights, Fnatic still has to be the one playing catch-up, especially on the other heroes. Chuan still really behind. Det is now poorer than Jabs. Jabs has more farm than Det. He's got the blink up on Jabs. He can blink and get the Winter's Curse. And that is going to set up for Fnatic. So T1 has to really be wary of where Jabs is. And it's hard to track him now.
Cuckoo. My shadows there, DJ. It's gonna be fine. Cuckoo does chain out. They are being very cautious not to throw this game back the way of Fnatic. That's, you're gonna appreciate that as well, because like one bad team fight could be all it takes to just turn this all around. Oh, Raven. Whoopsie. Bit of a BKB usage there, just making sure it works, as you would say, John.
Yep. Just, you know, you don't want the defective BKB in the middle of the fights, of course. He's down to 6 seconds. So, it's not going to feel bad past that point. He does have to watch the cooldown. He's caught for the BKB still, and see he's dead.
Yeah. DJ healing up, trying to survive through all this damage, but he's gone. Nice pick up. T1, I mean, luckily for Fnatic, T1 did not see the BKB being used. But they're going to rush the high ground, so pretty bad timing here for Fnatic. As Death, he's going to try and hide at the tree line. He has been scouted out, but he does get his BKB off in time, and he'll try to go for a run. Savage, just one loosened beam out. Cuckoo, he's going to have to back. They'll get the tier 3 tower. Onto the barracks they go. Death, he's going to jump in again with the stun and the light strike array and the Laguna Blade. It's not enough though. Savage just takes down Death on the Dragon Knight, and now the Dooms are out. They got Raven on the Terror Blade. Oh, and that's a Terror Blade without buyback. Very, very bad news now for the side of Fnatic, as T1, they are onto the T4 towers. Cuckoo, he's playing with them as Jabs, he gets doomed up, and the GG's called. Raven, he's seen enough. Game 1, it'll go the way of T1.
Yeah, it looked good on the draft, but Fnatic managing to get the Terrorblade against the Luna, T1 securing the Luna early on. But I guess in the end, it was just mind games from T1. They knew how Raven wants to play with the TB. They knew the timings he wants to hit. They draft around it. They just buy all the space in the world for Savage. They get him farmed up. Fnatic couldn't invade that jungle, which was really the big downfall. Like, they never stopped the Luna farm. And Savage just builds up. It's the nature of Luna. You know, if you give it space with the glaives, it will farm faster than the Terrorblade. And eventually, the gold difference was big enough that Luna was just gigantic. Fnatic, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It looked like they were getting some space out. Some of the later team fights did line up in their favor, especially around Roshan. Just not enough to really drag that game in. And T1, this is the T1 we were looking for throughout the groups. We'll have to see if this T1 stays in form for the next game.
Absolutely. We'll see, as we are going to go into game 2 in roughly 10 minutes. For now, it is MLP Dota on John xfire, and we'll be right back after this break to see how game 2's draft is